She didn't have a choice, right? I mean,
Well, she did have a
Just come
choice,
out of what
but
we
she
did
wanted, her choice was she
somewhere.
wanted to live longer. And she would have been passed between, they said, you never know what
but
happened. How do you
it's by the
know?
desk upstairs.
Then I could put the prognosis
I
for 6
saw
to
it
12
yesterday and I
months.
didn't know if it was whose it
And
was.
she said
Thank
she
you.
wasn't ready,
So-
and I really tried to help her
Yeah.
process as much as she could.
Found
and
it. Now you don't
telling
have to
her
use the
she was gonna
computer
be
if
in
you
more
don't
pain
want
than
to.
she's ever had been. And she said she wanted to go for it. She said, if I die in Cleveland, that's what's supposed to happen to me.
Hey,
So how we doing?
Great.
Yeah.
I'm tired, but I'm here.
You are.
Yeah.
We're all glad we're here
Yes.
for many reasons.
Hi, Lynn.
Okay.
Good.
She had to
Well.
tell me what your name was tonight, I forgot.
I wasn't here last week and you forgot me.
That's it. I'm telling
Good
you.
lady. Good lady.
Quickly we forget.
Forgetting the obvious. Okay, we're paying attention now.
It's a gift of
So
freedom.
last week,
Last week.
Oh,
we discovered that grace is the natural state of every son of God.
anybody know what page
And
that would
then-
be in the big book?
Yes. 143.
What?
And then we discovered that whenever you meet anyone, it's a holy encounter. Because your brother is grace also, as you are grace. Because your brother is also a son of God, just as you are a son of God. So whenever you meet anyone, it's a holy encounter. Are you looking for something?
I guess I left my purse in the car.
So you need your glasses. You can't see. In your keys? Not keys.
It's in my purse.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, did you finish the holy encounter last week?
We did.
Okay.
Yes, we're now on the
And
gift
we are
of
on the
freedom.
gift of freedom.
Woo-hoo!
Okay.
Which chapter is that?
It's freedom. Can't you be excited about that?
That was very exciting.
So, but seriously, even when we first started out, we talked about how we are spiritual beings. Okay? We are not physical beings, so to speak. The physical nature is what we use to present ourselves out in the world, okay, as we have defined it. It's not a good or bad thing, it's just how we've decided to present ourselves. So as a spiritual being, grace, as a spiritual being, or as a person, as a consciousness of grace, abstraction is truly the natural state of everything. Which means there's no separation, there's no definition that separates us from one another. And all of our problems stem from our necessity to define ourselves in relationship to something else, which means we're separating ourselves. And that is the problem. So the way to overcome it is to simply just accept that everyone is spirit. There is only one Son of God. Everyone is that spiritual nature of that substance that is everything. And always greet each other that way first. But to do that, you need to recognize or realize that that's what you are, don't you? So as soon as you can, and we say you do that experientially. We make an allegory and we say, hey, let's move it into the field of experience. Okay? Right now I feel I'm a body, but at least I know I can experience things. So why don't I try to experience my essential nature, or my spiritual nature, or myself, or experience the grace of God. Okay? And if I do that enough, then I will also be able to experience that in relationship to everyone I meet. And then it can truly become a holy encounter. And I just feel like we just don't take enough time to do that with each other. You know, even in this class, you know, when we greet each other, open up, greet each other with the essence of what you are. You know, at the end of we're so, you know, we have to get that last hugging before we go, you know. There's no greater hug than the embrace of God. So why don't we practice as we're going and literally just embrace each other in the light of Christ. Every opportunity we get. And tonight, we're going to learn more about doing that. The gift of freedom. If God's will for you is complete peace and joy, unless you experience only this, you must be refusing to acknowledge His will. You know, there's an inherent thing in there that we have to come to accept. Does everyone here truly believe that God's will for you is complete peace and joy? It's an amazing thing. It's like if you truly believe that, okay, then this will make complete sense to you, and you can embrace it wholly. But if you don't believe it, there's no way that this will do anything for you, will it?
It is a hard thing to overcome when you've been raised, believing God's judgmental God.
It is.
And that we're supposed to fear God.
Yeah.
So, taking that and trying to reverse it into knowing that following your gut, following what feels, good, right, and true, peaceful, harmonious, really is God's will for you, kind of feels selfish.
Yeah.
But it's really what God wants for us.
And it seems like you're surrounded by so many other things working against that
Isn't it?
concept.
Yes. Sure. And that's what we're going to read here. You're absolutely right. His will does not vacillate, being changeless forever. When you are not at peace, it can only be because you do not believe you are in Him. Yet He is all in all. His peace is complete, and you must be included in it. Now there's another supposition there, isn't there? Is God what everything is? Is God everything? Okay. Well, if God is everything, then it must include you. Do you feel like His everythingness includes you?
Most of the time.
Or is there some part of you that you feel that maybe, as you say, that God wouldn't really like to know about that you're up to? You're judgmental
I like how he
God.
looks at her.
Maria looks at me.
His laws govern you because they govern everything. You cannot exempt yourself from His laws, although you can disobey them. Yet if you do, and only if you do, you will feel lonely and helpless because you are denying yourself everything. If God is what everything is, and His laws must be what everything is represented by. And if you are denying that His laws have anything to do with you, then you're not part of everything, are you? And subsequently, you will feel alone. But the ego uses that interesting. Jesus says, I am come as a light into a world that does deny itself everything. It does this simply by dissociating itself from everything. It is therefore an illusion of isolation, maintained by fear of the same loneliness that is its illusion. So it's like when you believe that you're separate from everything, you feel lonely. But we are afraid of being alone, aren't we? So what do? We go around in the world and we try to what? Garner, gather others about us so that we don't feel lonely. And in doing so, we're totally denying the idea that we already are one of everything, just as everything is one of everything. But we pick and we choose, okay, to supplement ourselves so that we don't feel lonely, because we're afraid of being alone.
I'm not sure what they're talking about when he says His laws. What do you mean by His laws?
God's laws we had talked about in a couple chapters back, where one of God's laws is one that of extension. Okay? God wills you extend yourself because He is an extension of you. He is an everything is an extension of Him. Okay, so if you deny anything at all, literally you are blocking the means of that extension and denying one of the laws or disobeying one of the laws. But you can't truly disobey the law of the extension or the law of creation. Okay? You can choose to believe that you are disobeying it, but that doesn't stop creation. That doesn't stop extension. That
What about
doesn't
the-
stop God.
What about the law of gravity? Would that be one of his laws?
No, the law of gravity is basically a physical law. It's based on physical universe. And everything, the planets spinning around us and the whole gravitational force spinning around, and that's all a physical force. So that's all the physical realm. Okay, and what we're referring to is that you're not of a physical realm. You are a spiritual realm. And the whole purpose of this is to come to the recognition of that. It doesn't mean that you are not physical. We're not going to get into dissociation here. We're not going to get into denial of the state that we seem to be finding ourselves in. Okay, because that's just resting on the mistake. Okay? That's applying everything to the mistake and thinking about that and trying to correct a problem at the level of the problem, and you can't do it. Okay? So what we do is we say, hey, fine, this is what I seem to be right now. Let me relinquish the necessity to define myself as this all the time and try to come to the awareness that I am something else. Because true transformation is a flip. True transformation literally says one side does not know what the other side is. Okay? And once you transform, everything is changed. So once you come into that awareness that you are spirit, the idea of being physical doesn't occur to you. It's not that you aren't, it's not that you are. It just doesn't occur to you in how you express yourself, in how you extend yourself, in how you know yourself. And then as later on Jesus talks about, that's when you'll get to realize yourself in the real world, okay, which is a place where time and space seem to exist, okay, but you are not defined by them. I am come as a light into a world that does deny itself everything. It does this simply by dissociating itself from everything. It is therefore an illusion of isolation, maintained by fear of the same loneliness that is its illusion. I said that I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. That is why I am the light of the world. If I am with you in the loneliness of the world, your loneliness is gone. You cannot maintain the illusion of loneliness if you are not alone. My purpose then is still to overcome the world. I do not attack it, but my light must dispel it because of what it is. Light does not attack darkness, but it does shine it away. If my light goes with you everywhere, you shine it away with me. The light becomes ours, and you cannot abide in darkness any more than darkness can abide where you go. My remembrance, this is Jesus speaking, my remembrance of me is the remembrance of yourself and of him who sent me to you. So, Jesus is the light of the world. We've all heard this. Also, he said, I am with you always, even unto the end of time. Okay? In that regard, Jesus is always with you, so you cannot be alone. Okay? If he is the light, that means you are the light also. You can deny it, but that doesn't make it true. That's just a decision that you make. If you allow it to be so, then you are one literally with Jesus, who is one with what everything is. One with Christ, who is what one was, one everything is. You were in darkness until God's will was done completely by any part of the sonship. When this was done, It was perfectly accomplished by all. How else could it be perfectly accomplished? Literally, when Jesus Christ became the light of the world, this was over and done. It was perfectly accomplished. Even on the, what is it, when he was crucified on the cross, what was his last words?
It was finished.
It is accomplished. It is finished.
We're just slow on the uptake.
We're hanging around. Okay? We're just hanging around. Making decisions. But literally, this was over. As soon as any one consciousness comes into the realization of that light, that spiritual nature, that essence of what they are, it's done for everyone. Why? Where is the world?
Your mind.
Right. You hold the world in your own mind, right? Okay? If your mind is filled with light, what is the world? Now, does light have any degrees? True light is complete, isn't it? It's all light. That's why light has no degrees, no aspects, okay? No intervals. It's all just light. And it dispels darkness. It doesn't attack it. It just is what it is. And as it is, darkness cannot exist. So it was perfectly accomplished. How else could it be perfectly accomplished? My mission was simply to unite the will of the sonship with the will of the Father by being aware of the Father's will myself. This is the awareness I came to give you. And your problem in accepting it is the problem of this world. We really don't want to accept that. Fundamentally, we really like the idea that we have autonomy. Okay? And we do everything we can to supplant that, to make sure that that is present. We're afraid, literally, of becoming one, of losing that autonomy. We're afraid that if you become me, there is no difference between you and I at all, on any level. We are literally afraid that there will be nothing. Because our entire life, our entire state of beingness is dependent upon the fact that we are not the same. That those differences can't define us. Those differences give us something to do.
We're invested.
We're what?
Invested.
We are invested heavily in this. And Jesus comes and he says, no, you already are everything, and extension is the natural state of your beingness. And in doing so, you find your wonder and your joy and your creative ability. Because then you become co-creators with he who created you, with that essence that created you. We're so invested in this, though, that we really don't know what that is. And it's like we don't want to take that step, do it? Because that step requires that this is no more. Because the two are so different. One is based on no differences, one is based on absolute differences. The world must therefore despise and reject me, because the world is the belief that love is impossible. If you will accept the fact that I am with you, you are denying the world and accepting God. My will is his, and your decision to hear me is the decision to hear his voice and abide in his will. As God sent me to you, so will I send you to others. And I will go to them with you, so we can teach them peace and And that is your function in time, literally. You are a teacher of God, teaching peace and union.
Actually, what do you mean, like you said at the beginning, that this, people don't extend it? It seems to me that people, when they're pretty friendly here, I kind of consider that extension, I see most people being pretty interacting, being friendly. I guess I don't want really, what you mean by extension if it's not that?
Well, that is a level of extension, okay? But first, in doing so, there's a recognition that you are different, okay? Instead of a recognition that you are one and there is no difference. Do you see that? In other words, I come in and say, hey, how you doing, man? Did you have a nice weekend? Did you catch the Bears game the other night? We're getting into all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that seems friendly, isn't it? And it is friendly. What am I doing there? I'm using words and I'm using memory associations, okay, to try to find a mutual state in which we can connect, okay, and communicate, right? I find out if you're a Bears fan. If you're not a Bears fan, well then I know I can't communicate with you on that level, right? I find out if you had a nice weekend. Okay, if you had a nice weekend, I can identify with that. If you had a terrible weekend, maybe I can identify with that, and we'll both commiserate in our own misery over the weekend. Do you see? But that's what we do. And what we do is we try to find common ground, but still maintain a sense of autonomy. And that way, we can empower ourselves with what we're bringing to the table. And that supports the ego. It says, yeah, see, you're bringing something to the ego. Or you're bringing something to the table here. You're a Bears fan. Okay, so you can bring all of your knowledge, and you can communicate with you and all of your knowledge in the Bears, and we can get together and we can communicate. And now we share a oneness in that. But it's on a level to the exclusion of everything else about us. Right?
Say that again?
It's to the exclusion of everything else about us. Okay? It takes a limited picture of our life, Bears fan, weekend. Okay? Okay? And limits that to just that, and our communication is limited to just that. What about everything else that's going on?
I went to a dinner once. It was a progressive dinner in a former church, and there were probably 14 of us at the dinner table. And it was all the men talking about sports. And this went on for the whole dinner. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what about the rest of us here?
There you go.
It is an exclusion.
Sure.
And I've done it in reverse,
Sure.
I'm sure, with subjects that I'm fluent in,
Yeah, and it's not really reverse. You've just done it in the subjects you're fluent in. They're doing the subjects
That's
they're in.
right.
It's
Yeah.
like everything is only adding
Oh,
to
but we added
knowledge.
reverse to it, so that's one more layer. It's reverse now.
That's true, I'll agree that, some things that I like on the Bears team, maybe there's a couple people on the offensive line I like, but you might not like them, And so now we get into a little conflict and we say, well, that's all right, that's camaraderie. That's good, okay? Because now it gives us different points of view. But all of this is not extension. All of this is just commiseration within, after identifying a limited picture of each other to which we can try to commiserate, communicate with. That's all it is. Okay? We're leaving everything out. Everything. We're leaving everything out. And we're also leaving out joy and peace. I mean, we may say that we agree that the Bears are going to go all the way, right? Everybody here, do you agree the Bears are going to go all the way? Okay? See what I mean? It's like, it isn't going to happen. Okay, so we're never going to agree on everything. We're never going to be fully one in everything that we are doing. And in that sense, then, there will always be a level of conflict. And conflict is not peace, no matter how you look at it. If there's any degree of conflict at all, it's not peace. It may be an agreement, But it's agreement to disagree. We agree to disagree, that this is going on or that's going on, and that's all we do. And that's our life. We're denying, you're denying creation. We're not creating anything, we're just maintaining autonomy.
So are you saying small talk is denying your creation?
Oh, you know what? You can't judge it like that, because as I've said before, whatever you decide to do, embrace what you decide to do, accept it, don't feel guilty about it. Okay? Sometimes you just need to blow off. I mean, we're in a very intensive, believe it or not, this is an incredibly intensive transformation that you're going through. Because it's literally a denial, as we just said in here, it's a denial of the world in which you believe you are a part of. And it can really, like sometimes you just want to go, you know what, I'm going to go party tonight. I'm going to the bars. Okay? It's like, I need a break. It's like, you just do that.
I need a glass of whiskey.
There you go.
But I think some days, like if you start your day in, like in meditation and prayer, or, start yourself in a centered, balanced way and say, God, make me an instrument of your peace. Be my thoughts, my words, and my actions today in everything I do and say. And then kind of keep that as a mantra. I can have daily conversations at work or with my neighbors or my friends.
Absolutely.
And that energy is infused
Yes.
within that.
Yes.
So just because I'm having what appears to be a superficial conversation does not necessarily mean that that's what that is.
That's
There's
true.
actually, all that,
Yes.
energy, God-infused light within it.
Absolutely.
That's practice.
You are always communicating.
Practice. Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes,
We are always communicating
Right.
on two levels.
yeah.
Always. Okay? You are always communicating what you are in truth, and then you are commiserating with what you believe you are in time. Okay? Your creations are always going on. You are never not creating. You were created as a creator. And this is what we were saying just earlier. Okay? You can believe that you are this, but that doesn't make it so. It just makes it real to you. Your ability to create is a law of God. It's the law of creation, and you never stop doing it. Now, in expressing yourself, you wake up in the morning, lovely, you take meditation, you come into that light. What are we saying? You're coming into the light. You're becoming that peace, okay? That joy, and you are infused with that. So then, if you carry that with you, everyone you meet, what are you doing?
You're extending.
You're extending. Absolutely. You're extending that light, that center of awareness that you are. Now, does that mean that you won't then, subsequent to that, talk about, the sun, the garden, whatever else, the bears, whatever it is? No, you very well may do that. But as long as you come into the recognition of who you are first, okay, and know that your primary function is the extension of that, what that allows for is the opportunity for your brother and you to share a holy encounter, which is what we talked about last week. Okay? And in that holy encounter, you come to recognize what you truly are. You're talking to somebody, they may walk away feeling, wow, I had a really nice talk with this lovely young lady this morning. We were talking about the garden and I really felt good. What happened? They experienced the peace and the joy that you presented to them in however you presented it. Now, for a while, they may be identifying it with you, or they may be awake and they may be identifying the light in you just as a true nature of what they are. Does it matter to you? No, what matters to you is that you are still in peace because the encounter was peaceful, and your peace is maintained throughout. The function of the Course is the maintaining of a state of peace. That's what you want. Conflict, there's no part of conflict that will bring about peace. So lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we answer your question okay?
Yeah. I guess so.
Let's it's early yet.
Tangent.
We'll change that. Do you not think the world needs peace as much as you do? Do you not want to give it to the world as much as you want to receive it? For unless you do, you will not receive it. If you want to have it of me, you must give it. Healing does not come from anyone else. You must accept guidance from within. Where do you see Jesus Christ?
In your mind.
Don't you? If you think of it? You hold him? No, we have all iconic pictures of him too. Okay? But if you take that to the step where he is the light of the world and you see the light of him, where are you seeing him? And don't you subsequently experience that? Or at least isn't there a recognition of that? So if you hold that, then the next step is in any communication you are going to have, you're going to share that, aren't you? Then you know you have it. The guidance must be what you want, or it will be meaningless for you. That is why healing is a collaborative venture. I can tell you what to do, but you must collaborate by believing that I know what you should do. Only then will your mind choose to follow me. Without this choice, you will not be healed because you would not have decided against healing. I'm sorry, you would not be healed because you would have decided against healing. And this rejection of my decision for you makes healing impossible. Healing reflects our joint will. It reflects our joint will. This is obvious when you consider what healing is for. Healing is the way in which the separation is overcome. Separation is overcome by union. It cannot be overcome by separating. The decision to unite must be unequivocal, or the mind itself is divided and not whole. Your mind is the means by which you determine your own condition, because mind is the mechanism of decision. It is the power by which you separate or join, experience pain or joy accordingly. My decision cannot overcome yours because yours is as powerful as mine. If it were not so, the sons of God would be unequal. All things are possible through our joint decision, but mine alone cannot help you. Every decision you make defines what you are. All we're saying is if you decide with God, decide you are spiritual, decide you are the light of the world, and it's a decision, truly, it will become manifest despite you.
Do you think it has to do with the level of the degree of your trust?
Well, that all plays out, but you know what? You can't do it that way because, again, now you're looking at things and you're trying to measure.
Right.
You're trying to place some sort of measurement. Finally, you have to take it on each and every moment. Now, you have a decision to make.
So it's fully or not at all?
It's one way or
It's not
another.
going to work at 35%.
No, it doesn't work at 35%.
It
You're
doesn't
either-
work 100%, 35% of the time.
There you go.
Doesn't work 35%.
Exactly.
It's like, but that's the beauty of it. It's a moment, and it's a decision that you make in a moment. Now, for the times that you decide against being whole, great. You realize it, what do?
Besides that, really.
You just forgive it. You just forget it. Actually, you don't even have to do that. All you have to do is, as you say, just decide the other way. And as soon as you decide the other way, forgiveness is inherent in that, because you can only have one thought at a time. Now, decide. I am the light of the world. Phew. All you have to do is hold that. Hold that thought just for a moment. Try it. Just for a moment. Go ahead, try it. Wow. place is full of light. I love it.
Makes me play.
In that moment, it didn't matter whatever else was going on, did it? Just one moment. That's all it takes, and it only happens moment by moment. And as we talked before, is there a residual effect? Yes, but you need not be concerned about it. Okay? Concerning yourself about the residual effect and taking a look to see if it really worked or it did anything or if it worked any miracles, that is all this giving yourself a sense of autonomy. Okay, that's all the ego. Literally just practice being the light and trust, okay, once you come back into it, trust that everything works perfectly. But that is in retrospect, the idea of trust.
Sometimes when I'm dealing with people and I want to promote peace, I'm kind of like agreeing with them. You know, I don't want to, I mean, it's, you're accepting their view and that's not right. You know.
You know, it's an interesting thing because Jesus says, if in the course he's got a section there, he says, whenever a brother takes a stance and it's not the same as yours, let him keep his stance. Because your denying it is creating just as much conflict as is his stance. Your stance that it's not the way, okay, is the same as yours. And it seems like you're agreeing to disagree. So your function, finally, is to realize that whatever it is you're talking about doesn't have any reality to begin with anyway, and take it up to the light. Realizing that your brother, no matter how he's presenting himself, okay, is still a son of God, just as you are a son of God. Okay? And seeing him as that. Okay? Once you do that, then it opens the door for the possibility of a miracle to take place in which both of you will come to recognize that you are one in whatever you decide to do. Okay? We really don't know. It's like we really don't know the degree to which we are invested in our own reality. So when somebody presents something to us, we may very well not feel comfortable, okay, with what it is that's being presented. But whatever we are not feeling comfortable about is what we need to transcend. Okay?
Right.
You can't do anything to the other consciousness. The only thing you can do is why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling at odds with this decision? Why am I feeling that this isn't the way that we should go? Or why am I feeling, why am I feeling this? Okay? And then relinquish that and come to realize who you are. Come back into that light. And because that's where your true power is, and that's where the transformation takes place. Subsequent to that, does that mean that you're going to absolutely agree with the other consciousness and go the same way, or you're going to go a different way? You know what? It doesn't matter. In the moment of it, you realized that the feelings that you had, your uncomfortableness, your lack of peace, and lack of being able to join with your brother in that decision, okay, is the only thing that really needed to be looked at. And you were presented with that explicitly to help you remember who you were in truth.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of that is once you relinquish that attachment you have that's creating conflict and you release it, in that moment you are living your true function, which is our inheritance of God, our true function in knowing our certainty of who we are and standing in that certainty. And that actually is what God wants us to do as,
Love.
you know,
Stand in the certainty.
teachers of God.
That's right.
I mean, that's the ultimate, like,
Yeah.
your function here.
Well, and if you're standing in the certainty of who you are, none of this here matters.
But everything matters.
You know what I mean? But like in the sense of whether or not you're winning an argument or not, there is no argument.
That's
There
right.
is none,
There
because
is
you
no-
relinquished
It
it.
ceases to exist.
You let go your attachment to it.
Exactly.
And then that leaves room for the Holy Spirit to work through you to
Exactly. So if I
remind you
feel
of
like I
your
have to
function.
countermand what they're saying, then I'm not in spirit.
Right.
It's just telling me where I'm at. It's
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Yeah. Just if you look at it that
Yeah.
way.
Now,
It's an
is that
opportunity.
too, you still left with the truth of what you're gonna do next though, right?
No, I like what you said though, when you feel that, you know, you're in disagreement with your brother and then just relinquish it. I've done that where I just said, you know, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, just take it away, you know. And then for a moment you feel
Okay,
peaceful.
what will happen then, the more you come to the realization of who you are, is when you are in a case like that, in a situation like that, literally, you will extend love to your brother. Okay? That will be your automatic response. And in doing so, okay, you won't be focused on really what the question is. Some people might think you're a little fighty, okay, or something like that. But literally, that's all you need to do. Okay? It's like they're expressing their case and you're sitting there going, wow, phew, phew, and you're experiencing that energy. And literally you can feel the energy of the other consciousness too. Okay? If they feel super strongly about something, you can actually feel them getting a little hot.
Excitable.
Okay?
Mhm.
Excitable. You can feel the heat being generated from it. Why? Because they're in their own mind creating friction, aren't they? Friction is energy. The mind is energy, so it's going to generate that. And you're going to experience that, you're going to feel it. And literally what you're going to do is, you're going to take it and you're going to transform it, because you're going to disperse the necessity for it to be so defined and so conflictual. Okay, now this is more on a spiritual type level. I'm expressing this, but as you're doing this, this is what will happen. This is when the miracle starts taking place. Okay, because why? All of a sudden, they don't feel so strongly attached to this, but they don't know why. Okay? You know why, because you're filled with light and love, and they're embraced in it. Okay? They don't quite realize that, because they're still caught up in their own idea about who they are and what they're trying to present as themselves. Remember, whenever you present anything at all, you're presenting yourself as you define yourself. So, if you present the light, if you present joy, if you present peace, if you extend energy, you are defining yourself as that. You're letting yourself be that, finally. Okay? And that will disperse anything. Jesus says you have the power to move mountains, and you do. Okay? That's what will start happening. But literally you need to find it first for yourself so that you know what it is you are giving. You know what it is to give joy. You know what it is to love. You know what it is to extend the truth of who you are.
I've read a quote. I've read it from a couple different people. And whenever I'm feeling conflicted, and there's certain people that I still have buttons. So if I'm talking to someone and I'm getting irritated, it's not the person. I've got a button. Because if I didn't have a button, they wouldn't irritate me. So the saying is it better to be right or to be kind?
I always heard it's better,
Right.
you gotta be right or happy.
Well, but you know, I mean, to be kind though, I mean, this person is sharing something of themselves. You know, why should I reassert that I'm different? And you know, it's
Absolutely.
be kind.
We're saying the same thing.
Exactly. That's so in my mind. That's that little trigger. If I'm getting triggered off, I'm like, well, is it important to be right or to be kind right now? And then it.
So is kindness silence?
Is kindness not?
Silence.
Actually, I think what you'll find, what I have found anyway, has been incredibly, what I have found is that when you find you will find things in which whenever somebody's saying something, you will find things in which you can agree with easily. Okay? They just sort of come to you because you are trying to present the idea that we are flowing. We are both going in the same direction. We are all going in the same direction. We're going in the will of God. Okay? So, from the aspect of what is kind and what isn't, okay?
Or
is it-
loving.
Or loving,
Yeah.
okay? Finally, it's like being in union, okay, and going on the same journey is love. Communicating along the way is what love is. Is that kind? Yeah, that would be kind. Then why? If you look at the idea of what is kind, if they're like kind, if you're kind, it's like you're the same. It's just another way of looking at the word kind. It's like you're moving along in the same direction. Hello? That light, okay, is what will bring you both together. And you can find things in which the consciousness no longer defines the conflict. It's sort of like you, how do I express this?
It kind of starts to morph to where I've had conversation with people that are arguing a point and they're arguing this thing and they're all excited about the argument. And I know from where I'm standing, if I were to drop down into my ego mind, I would be disagreeing with what they're saying. So what I do is sometimes I start to just enjoy how excited they are about it.
There you go.
I start to just smile at like how really into it they are right now, and I find joy and entertainment somehow in my heart, and so that sets this love environment. And what I find is sometimes I can take a point they're saying and go, I see how you came to that. It's more of this, I'm understanding you. I don't have to agree. You never said the word you agree, but you're being present to witness and listen. And so I'll find sometimes I have to craft it because the other mind wants to keep coming in. So I'll say, well, I can definitely see where you came up with that. Now, does that link to this? So they know you're listening and you're interacting, and they stop arguing as much. They don't have to win anymore because they realize they're in the middle of this community. So it starts to morph in strange ways. And it's not that I'm morphing it. I'm just enjoying this fervent conversation with this person that's pulling everything out of their associations they can think of to try to prove this point, and they get, they'll get pen and paper out. And that to me starts to give me joy and excitement. So I focus on that instead of what they're saying, and then I find little things to talk to them about, and then we're no longer arguing.
Yeah. And you'll also find that's lovely. Recognize the energy that they've got in it. That's perfect. Because what are you doing is you're back to the experience. Okay, you're back to the energetic nature of what you are. And what you'll also find is that you'll be given things to say. Okay, they'll just call it intuition, call it whatever it is. Okay, but you'll be given things to say that will enjoin you with the consciousness instead of opposing. Setting up a barrier to the consciousness.
But I'm stuck. If someone is selling you an argument for separation,
Okay?
if you agree with that, then you violate the unity principle of the Course.
Well, agree with them. We're not saying agree with them. What she was saying, get excited about the energy that they have in it. Okay?
Meaning that I can
And
see
see
their
that.
argument.
But
Or
they,
I know what I'm
they can
expressing.
push you for
An answer,
An answer.
decision.
Mhm. Right? Yes, sir.
and if you disagree, then you're setting up a conflict and you are creating a separation.
You're right. If you disagree, you're right.
So either way, if you agree or you disagree, you are involved in a separation of
What
some
if? What if you? You don't necessarily have to take a question or take a position to investigate a position. In other words, if you're agreeing, you're telling me about separation, okay?
Yeah.
All right. And what I say is, I asked you questions about what it is that you are so embraced in. Okay, now I'm not taking a position, I'm asking, I'm being inquisitive as to how
It's
you
always safe to
arrived
ask
at your
questions.
choice.
But if you owned a company
Mhm.
in Mississippi,
Yeah.
and someone came to you and said, you know, you gotta have separate bathrooms for the blacks
Mhm.
and
Okay.
separate ones for the whites,
Mhm.
what are you going to do about that?
What about-
That's what we want done in this city or whatever, okay? Now, if you agree, you've created a separation.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you disagreed, you created a conflict with the city or whoever's speaking and selling you this proposition, and that's a separation.
Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's.
Well, you can look at it that way. You can do that. I still would take the position of asking them, why is it so important for you to do that?
It's the law. We
Right.
passed it in the
That's
city
what I'm
Oh,
council.
okay, now if it's the law,
Right.
They passed it in the city council. They have an ordinance.
if it's the law,
That's why you have to
you're
do
right.
it that
Yes,
way.
if it's the law, you literally abide by the law, because you're taking the position of you not being in tune with the law.
But that's what empowered Hitler.
You know, you
He
might think
changed
so.
the law.
Okay, now let's take it a step further. We've got this before. We're really going deep here. Okay.
Have some coffee. Talk amongst yourselves.
The problem here still comes in the idea that you believe somehow you know the outcome of everything. Okay? We can say quite literally, let's just take it to the word of Hitler, okay, which right now supposedly is probably the most catastrophic thing that's ever occurred in terms of all that, right? But we don't know that for sure.
That's what I was gonna say, we don't know that.
Okay? We don't know what would have happened if there hadn't have been Hitler. We don't know if the United States would still be the United States. We don't know if somebody else may have been coming up out of that who would have been worse than Hitler. Or better than Hitler. I mean, it's like, you just don't know. So taking the position that something is good or bad is, all you're doing is you're looking in your past, okay, and you're trying to take all of the events and bring them to some sort of agreement with yourself in relationship to what you view as the way the world is, or world order. In the case of segregation, okay, terrible thing if you think about it now. But you know what? Did you know that half of the United States used to be owned by Mexico? I just found that out the other day.
It's a great deal of the Bible.
It's like the half, an entire half of the United States used to be owned by Mexico. Okay, and what do? A bunch of people over here, I say we, a bunch of people on this side of the country decided, actually it was Texas. Okay, Texas decided they didn't want to be a part of Mexico anymore, and they wanted to create their own free state. Okay, so they created conflict. Now, was that a good thing? Well, ask a Mexican. You'd say no. Okay, ask a Texan, they'd say yes. Who's right? How do you know what would have happened if Texas didn't become the dictator in that sense, or the aggressor in that sense? Okay, and create the war, what was it, 1812, and just have to settle on a Rio Grande or whatever it was. Okay? Look at all, and you know, we talk about Native Americans. Okay, and how we did all these things to Native Americans, and we put them on little plantations here and there, you know, reservations, and we're all terrible about it. But look what we did to the Mexicans. And now what are we doing? We're building fences to keep them out, to make sure they stay on that side of the Rio Grande. It's like, there is no solution to this. At the level that you are
That's
presenting it, there is no way to correct the problem at the level of the problem.
Which is why you have
So,
to ask God.
now,
If every
absolutely, ask
decision
God.
you make is, if you step back and ask for God's Holy Spirit to be infused in the decision, you can't make a wrong decision.
That's right.
If
And-
you're completely handing it over.
Yes, and that's the key. Okay, if you literally come into spirit each and every moment and say, hey, if you know yourself as spirit, if you're making a wrong decision, you will know it. If you're making a decision of separation, you will know it. Okay? You don't know that in building that bathroom, that you may be saving an entire war that's going to transpire because you didn't. There may be riots that are all of a sudden erupting and thousands of people are going to die because you didn't do it, or because you did do it. You know, you don't know. There's no way to do that. So, come into the experience of who you are. Okay, literally, be that experience. If it's not right, you'll know it. Okay, you'll feel it. What will happen? The energy will fall into your gut. Okay, you'll feel cold. You'll feel constricted. Okay, you'll feel literally all these things. All that is just being aware of who you are. Okay, and in relationship to everything that you're being presented with.
Yeah, I got another example for it. I was going to the Starbucks early in the morning. I was going there every day, and the women there are real friendly, kind of friendly, and just going in and they're being. I'm being pulled into kind of like the Starbucks family. I'm going there, and you know, I just went other because I don't want to be part of the Starbucks family. You know, I don't want to.
You just want a cup of coffee? Is that what it is?
So I went to go. Yeah, I just went to start. You know, I started going to other coffee. I still go in there once it's close to my house.
Did you know that they actually had a mandate about a year ago that because of the fact people were not, they're getting the surveys, they didn't feel friendly enough, that they had to ask you questions, and it gets really annoying because some of them, you know, aren't really asking you because they want to know. They're asking because they had to know. Hi, how are you? What are you doing today? You know, that they were mandated to
My
have
bank
these
does the same
conversations
thing, and
to
it's
try to
so
remember what your coffee order is, so you felt like you were coming to your little
I do.
neighborhood Starbucks. Yeah. There's some of them that do that naturally, and those are the ones I go to because, you know, there's the communication, there's that flow, it's genuine.
And you can feel the
You can feel the
genuineness.
genuineness.
feel
You
the
can tell when
difference.
it's like a 16-year-old girl who doesn't really care, who's going, hi, how are you today? When you, oh, really? Okay, that's great. Okay.
You know what? And in a case like that, it's not. It is. Ask the consciousness. Somebody comes up to you and starts talking like that, a banker or something like that. Ask them who they are.
I do.
Ask them, you know, how do you feel about that question? I mean, is that something that you really want to know?
Yeah, and can I call you at home tomorrow
No,
morning?
you don't have to do
and-
that.
No,
No, that's
Let's do that for dinner.
But seriously, because what are you doing now? You're engaging them to make them look at themselves in relationship to who they truly are. And if you do it with love, if you literally do it with genuine love and you're doing it and you're extending as you're doing it, they will stop and they will think.
They do.
Okay? They will actually just stop. And in that moment, that provides the opportunity for the miracle to take place.
I always ask the people at Jewel before they can talk, do you need new stamp stickers or trash stickers when you're sleeping? Before they'll say it, and they stop and they start to smile because it takes them out of their routine. And then we start to have a real conversation at the register.
Yeah.
And it's more fun.
And if you don't want to have a conversation, you don't really have to. And you know what? They will sense, that's the other thing too. They will sense you don't want to have that conversation. Okay? If you are free with who you are, if you are open to who you are. Because what happens? They literally feel the energy drop. You're bathing them in light, they ask a stupid question, and your energy goes, okay? They feel that. What are you teaching them? Okay? You're teaching them that, hey, that's not a good question to ask you at 8 o'clock in the morning when you're coming in for a cup of coffee. Okay? We are so heavily invested in the idea that we are these physical beings. We're not physical beings. There's an energy relationship to everything. Everything. And your function is to literally learn to communicate on that level. But you can't do it until you recognize that there is an energy relationship with everything.
And you have to have the frame of reference for where it is in yourself.
Right. Well, until you recognize
Right.
it won't happen.
Right.
Until you recognize it within yourself. And even in a case where, you know, it's going to create separation. The way that you're expressing that is, it's of the world. And as you say, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, because you don't know why you're being presented with this. However, if you come to realize that everything is just the allegory of your awakening, what you will begin to see that every time you are presented with something, it is an opportunity for you to make a decision one way or the other. And that is the only function that it has for you.
So if I'm having a conflict with someone and it's activating me and I'm getting this position like, okay, no matter what I say, I'm going to feel separate. Really, I'm having this whole conversation in my own
With
head.
yourself.
So it's
And you're already separate.
right. So at that point, it's kind of like, I mean, I know technically at that point you go, okay, put me back in the light and all of it should just flow away because none of it's real. Or it's all my own creation, it's an illusion. And so if you can get back into the light, then that all disappears and then you don't have to worry about the argument anymore because it goes away.
It may not go away.
In your mind, because that's your
That's
one
right, but in
experiencing
your
it.
mind, all of the energy that you have associated with it goes away. And that's the only thing that's important because now you are in a state of peace. Why? Because you're not so heavily invested into whether or not they're going to create separate bathrooms for the black people and the white people.
Because I've had arguments
long
with
as
my
you're
brother, very big arguments, because he felt my life should be going in different ways, and I used to get very activated by the conversations, and it would get to be a head-to-head conversation where I would just have to say, you know, I don't agree with what you're saying, but what I found myself saying is, I love you very much, and I know that everything that you're presenting to me right now is because you feel it's for my best good.
Well, actually, it's because they fully believe in it.
Right,
Yes.
so
There you go.
however, that you believe that you are helping me with this conversation, I am thankful for that. It is unfortunate, however, that I'm going to actually, or fortunate or unfortunate, these are my decisions and this is what I'm gonna do, so thank you, but this is my life. So try to say it as much love, but I've had other situations where you just walk away and you can't get that person not to argue with you. But you just send them love when you walk away.
What about when they follow you?
That's what we call police and you send them love. As they're getting handcuffed, you send them love.
As we're reading this or discussing this, I'm trying to equate it with Jesus' life, and I've always thought that he was so wise, he came up with the good singers, you know, like he without sin pick up the first stone and, you know, cast it.
There you go.
I thought, you know, I wish I could have that wisdom like that, and I asked for it and prayed for it, but is this going to get into also what happened to his life by trying to spread peace and love, that he ended up the ultimate sacrifice?
Actually,
Are we going to have to?
there is a section in here that actually deals with that. I thought we already went through that, though. Did we already go through that?
After his death.
Yeah, the crucifixion. Is that what you're referring to, the
And
crucifixion?
for us, by constantly trying to promote peace and love, there's going to be sacrifice.
No, there should be no sacrifice. You're not sacrificing any. If you believe that you're sacrificing anything that has to do with the body, you're not sacrificing anything at all. Because it isn't real.
No, yes, the physical body is sacrificed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, well, maybe I'm not understanding your question then.
Well, ultimately, his physical body paid the sacrifice.
Right? It seems that way.
Because he was always in disagreement with the egos of the world.
Was it?
Huh?
I think it was more you just scared. Okay?
Yeah.
When you're scared, people attack you.
It was a threat to them.
Right.
They didn't understand it.
Right, they didn't understand him. Okay, he's expressing everything as the light of the world. And again, we're going back 2,000 years, and we have about really don't
Right,
They believed in separation, and they were afraid that people would follow him rather than them.
And why? Because their entire world is built upon separation. That's the ego.
They didn't buy into what he was talking about in the unity of consciousness, that we're all one, and that there is no separation in following one leader or another. In those days, it was all about leading.
Leaders, yeah.
We
Now, there's another
did
way that-
message of crucifixion in chapter 6.
Yeah. There's another way to look at this.
Thank you.
You have designed everything explicitly to remind you of who you are in truth. This also involves every thought about the past that you have. Okay? So literally the whole life of Christ, okay, of Jesus, is an allegory of your own awakening. Okay? As he said earlier, when I did it, it worked perfectly. Okay? Now you're remembering how you did it with me. Because you were with him then, just as he is with you now, because there is no We have a belief in time. What do? We set it up, we say there's a Hitler in the past, there's a Jesus Christ in the past, there's a Buddha in the past, tonight there's all these things. And why do we do that? Because it allows us to be us now. Okay? And not fully realize to what he was, being Jesus. But that is all just an allegory of your own awakening. That was you. Jesus is you. There is no difference. God, how many sons of God did Jesus, how many sons did God have?
One.
One. Who is it?
The sonship, all of us.
It's you. You know what? In time, is it all of us? Yes. But out of time, there's no differences. Light is light. Okay? Life is life. That's where we are. The necessity to try to define ourselves in cause and effect relationships is what's keeping us here. Okay? And all of that is just, the only thing we have to relinquish is the necessity to do that. Our desire to do that. And we do that moment by moment. You know, and skeptics will say, well, yeah, what about when Hitler comes around the corner again? Because there'll be another one just like there was. His name is Gaddafi or whatever. You know, it's like, is there in the world terrible, terrible, seemingly terrible things going on? It seems that way. Well, not only do you know that, but we have decided that. Okay, and what do? We create what? And a whole network of events to what? Present that to us. So we can prove that it is happening. And we create an entire history so we can prove that it is happening. And again, there's no way to correct it. The way we've expressed it in our own mind is everything is out there, and there's no way to change it. So, where does all change begin?
In the mind.
It begins here. It doesn't begin out there. It begins right here. When we look at Jesus Christ, he was an example in our minds of one who said, change starts right here. Be therefore perfect as I am, and also as your heaven. Your Father in heaven is. Do that. You know, and we create rituals around it. You know, do this in remembrance of me, you know, that we say in the Mass and everything else. Take of the body of Christ, you know, the blood. All of that stuff. Okay, we create rituals around it. Okay, and we integrate them. You know, we take Eastern and Western traditions and bring them together so that we can somehow try to experience something new. And what are we doing as we are doing it? All we're trying to do is what? Realize the true nature of what our beingness is, of what life is. We have an inherent question. What am I doing here? Okay, what am I? And Jesus, of course, says it's impossible for anything not to know what it is. You know what you are. You know what you are. Everyone here in this room knows what they are. You know who you are. To the degree that you want to be something else, you will deny who you are. The denial happens moment by moment. To the degree you want to be who you are, you will be who you are. And it happens moment by moment. If you fill your mind with light, you are embodied in light. If you fill your mind with conflict, you are the representation of what conflict is. In your own mind, you play all the parts. All of them. And then what? And then project them out there. That example that you have, how many times has it been replayed in our own history? You know, with the whole Mississippi thing, and the bus, the back of the bus, and the front of the bus, and we all have memory associations of that, and some of them we don't even accept as ours until what? Until we've heard them so much, and now we all of a sudden they're ours. It's like, it's gone. Now is where everything starts. When you realize yourself now, everything changes accordingly. Past changes and the future changes. How much energy you have in any one thing, okay, is how much you are attached to it. how much you want to open yourself to the flow of what life is how much you are attached to God and one with everything.
What I'm hearing is that we're in the chapter of the gift of freedom.
Yeah.
So if you can, when you open yourself up to this and all those associations kind of melt away, you're free.
You are free. Yes. We are imprisoned by our thoughts. Let's read on, because you know what? Everything I've been saying is still in this section here. Okay, where am I? Does mind
Nothing God created can oppose your decision.
Okay, nothing God created can oppose your decision, as nothing God created can oppose His will. God gave your will its power, which I can only acknowledge in honor of His. If you want to be like me, I will help you, knowing that we are alike. If I can teach you, but only you can choose to listen to my teaching. I'm going to read this again. If you want to be like me, I will help you, knowing that we are alike. If you want to be different, I will wait until you change your mind.
Isn't that beautiful?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I can teach you, but only you can choose to listen to my teaching. How else can it be if God's kingdom is freedom? Freedom cannot be learned by tyranny of any kind, and the perfect equality of all God's sons cannot be recognized through the dominion of one mind over another. God's sons are equal in will, all being the will of their Father. This is the only lesson I came to teach. If your will were not mine, it would not be of our Father's. This would mean you have imprisoned yours and have not let it be free. Are you ready? Of yourself, you can do nothing, because of yourself, you are nothing. I am nothing without the Father, and you are nothing without me, because by denying the Father, you deny yourself. I will always remember you, and in my remembrance of you lies your remembrance of yourself. In our remembrance of each other lies our remembrance of God. And in this remembrance lies your freedom, because your freedom is in Him. Join then with me in praise of Him and you whom He created. This is our gift of gratitude to Him, which He will share with all His creations, to whom He gives equally whatever is acceptable to Him. Because it is acceptable to Him, it is the gift of freedom, which is His will for all His sons. By offering freedom, you will be free. Freedom is the only gift you can offer to God's sons, being an acknowledgement of what they are and what He is. Freedom is creation because it is love. Whom you seek to imprison, you do not love. It's quite a statement, isn't it? Whom you seek to imprison, you do not love. Anyone you hold, even in your own mind, as something separate from anyone else, you're imprisoning them, aren't you? For any reason at all. Doesn't matter how beneficent you think you're doing it, or how detrimental you think you are doing it. Therefore, when you seek to imprison anyone, including yourself, you do not love him and you cannot identify him. So if you seek to imprison yourself, you don't love yourself. When you imprison yourself, you are losing sight of your true identification with me and with the Father. Your identification is with the Father and the Son. It cannot be with one and not the other. If you are part of one, you must be part of the other, because they are one. The Holy Trinity is holy because it is one. If you exclude yourself from this union, you are perceiving the Holy Trinity as separated. Isn't that lovely? You must be included in it because it is everything. Unless you take your place in it and fulfill your function as part of it, the Holy Trinity is as bereft as you are. No part of it can be imprisoned if its truth is to be known.
I liked that last section where it was talking about Jesus holding the remembrance of you or me. It's, you always read, do as I do, love as I love your brother as yourself. But this brings it more contextually into an understanding or an experience of an understanding for me. Because when I don't remember, there's something out there remembering for me, and therefore it makes it easier for me to know what to do when I meet my brother, because I've got the cue of someone remembering me out there.
Yeah.
So it's this lovely system.
Yeah, right. In our remembrance of each other lies our remembrance of God. So your brother is your Savior. And when they remember you, that keeps the door open for you to
I was
remember who you
experiencing
are.
as I was going, I was just feeling it. It was very nice.
That's beautiful. The undivided will of the sonship. Can you be separated from your identification and be at peace? Dissociation is not a solution. It is a delusion. The delusion will believe that truth will assail them, and they do not recognize it because they prefer the delusion. Judging truth as something they do not want, they perceive their illusions which block knowledge. Help them by offering them your unified mind on their behalf, as I am offering you mine on behalf of yours. Alone we can do nothing, but together our minds fuse into something whose power is far beyond the power of its separate parts. By not being separate, the mind of God is established in ours and as ours. This mind is invincible because it is undivided. So this is where we get into dissociation is not a solution, it is a delusion. We've been talking a lot about how the world is out there, the Hitlers, the Mississippis, prejudices, frustrations, angers, all those things, even though they're copulated, all those things. You can't dissociate yourself from that. That's not a solution. The recognition that you don't need to identify yourself in relationship to it is the relinquishment of your part in trying to solve it. Okay? And inherent in that is the opportunity for you to come into the experiential awareness of who you are. So, I meet the lady behind the coffee counter and she asked me a question that I sort of find obtrusive. I'm still trying to clean my ears out or something. Who knows? Maybe I just want coffee. Okay. What am I doing? I'm setting up a position in which I'm in denial and I'm dissociating myself from that consciousness, aren't I? By my taking the position that if they ask me a question that I'm not open to, that I'm being imposed upon. What purpose does it serve? Just separation. So, what's the solution?
Offer
What's the
them your
solution?
unified mind.
Recognize you're doing it and go, Holy Spirit, Jesus, whoever, come in and help me with my mind.
Words of wisdom.
Help me
Pray
with my
for
mind.
wisdom.
Help me with my mind right now, because I'm apparently,
Isn't that lovely? The solution is literally what? Turn it over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm being asked this question, okay? And I'm not going to define myself in relationship to anything that I'm experiencing through it. Okay? What am I here for? You know, why am I here? What is this? In doing so, it may seem like a really silly thing to do, but if you think about it, it's really a lovely thing to do, because what are you doing? You're just opening up to the opportunity that something else can occur. That's it.
And if you can't do that, don't judge yourself for being cranky at the coffee person.
And if you don't do that, oh yeah, and if you don't do that in retrospect, let it go.
You look back and you
Okay?
go, well, I
You'll-
was really
I
nice
trust
that
you.
would be.
Believe me, you'll get another opportunity. Maybe the person that cuts you off, maybe the person that gets to work for you, maybe your boss, maybe whoever it's going to be. Okay, you'll get another opportunity. But what are you doing in doing that? You're retraining your mind. You're giving yourself an entirely new purpose. Your purpose is no longer one of establishing relationships with the coffee lady. Okay? Your purpose is to realize what true communication is and open the door for the possibility of it in every case. Okay? Your true purpose is to find out who you are. It becomes what you begin to do. That's when you start looking around and everything, all of a sudden you start seeing the synchronicity of everything. Okay? This happens and all of a sudden you go, oh wow, now I know why that happened. You know, that happened and I got here. You know, you start seeing how, you know, you get up and you're rushing around because you're late and you think you're going to be late to wherever it is you're going to go, and all of a sudden you get there and you realize, you know what, I got there perfectly on time. You know, it's like, or I got here late, but it didn't matter. You know, the person I was going to see was late. Or they went out and got coffee, or whatever. It's like you start seeing that everything is to your benefit. And it has to be to your benefit, because you made it. You've defined it. And it's a real tough order to take in terms of how we define ourselves here. Because we do seem to define ourselves by the injustices that we're presented with, by the catastrophes that we're presented with. We base our life on it. You know, that's not our life. Switch it around. Be honest with yourself. Say, hey, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with catastrophes. I'm tired of reading about the suffering of the world. I don't want this anymore. I want to see something else. Jesus, of course, lessons 1, was it 28, 29, and 30. You don't want to see this world. There is another world I do want to see. You can't see both worlds at the same time. So make a decision. Which one do you want? That's where we are. Everything only adds to. Everything. Everything has been designed explicitly to remind you of who you are in truth. Everyone you meet is an opportunity, is a holy encounter and an opportunity to know yourself. Every situation you find yourself in is a situation in which you can come to recognize who you are. Every time, without fail, every thought that you have is another opportunity for you to do that. Now, the level that I'm speaking of here is just really just one of an experiential level. It has nothing to do with what life is. Life is so much greater than even everything that I'm expressing to you right now. But until you've at least come to the recognition that you are an experiential being and you've decided that the purpose of everything is to remind you of that, to reflect that to you, there's no way you'd even get an inkling on what true creation is or what true life is. Are there other worlds? Are there other dimensions? Absolutely. Okay, can you float into other platforms? Are there other platforms of consciousnesses and groups that get together and come together in like minds? Yes. And are there some over here and some over here? Are they different a little bit in their rays? Yes. Sure, all of that. Everything in heaven and earth is. Anything that you can think of in your mind is. Okay? All of it serves only one purpose now. To find yourself. Once you find yourself, all of it serves only one purpose. Being yourself. There are the great rays. Jesus later on is going to talk about the great rays. Okay? Different rays of light, okay, that are coming in. Are there different universes, different worlds? Yes, there is. Each one of us, in our own mind, holds an entire universe. My universe, as I've defined it, is different than yours. It's different than yours. It's different than yours. It has to be. Because why? All the memory associations that you have are different. Now, if we get rid of all of the timed events that are in there, all of the definition of the events, and we come into the experiential nature of it, is there anything that's different about your experiences than my experiences? No. The only thing that would be different is what we attach them to. So if we relinquish what we attach them to, not dissociate from them, but see them as having only one function, and that is to realize the experiential nature of who I am in relationship to everything, then that gives us an entirely new purpose in life, a new journey, a new path. It puts us on a journey that we can finally accept for ourselves. A journey for which you have complete control over because you make all the decisions. All of them. There's not one decision that you don't make. It's really a lovely way to do it. And that's what the Course is. And the Course literally is just trying to get you to train your mind so that you always choose for that. You always choose for, hey, whatever I'm doing, what is this for? I know what I want. What is this for? Okay? How does this fit into this? I don't know. Tell me. It's just a different journey. Is it any different than say a president, okay, who's taken the responsibility? I mean, the president's a great example. They take full responsibility for everything in the country. Okay, that's what they're doing. I don't care who they're. Bush, it doesn't matter. Okay, they're taking on a responsibility for everything in the country. And what is it? Half the country loves them and half the country hates them at any given point in time. And it swings like this, doesn't it? Okay? And it's always in relationship to what? Not what they do, to what the consciousness wants done. Okay? So they create their own world, they project it out there, and then they can't take responsibility for it, so they judge them in relationship to it. Okay? And there's no way to fix it in this. So take another step, take a different journey. Okay? That's what Jesus, of course, is saying. He says, you know what? You can fix all of this. All you have to do is realize that the problem isn't as you've defined it. The problem is that you believe you can define it. And in doing so, inherently, you make a problem real. Talk. How you doing over there, Jim? He's still back in Mississippi.
You know, that example came to mind because living in the North all my life, you read about those things. But I did travel to Mississippi once, and I stayed in an old hotel. And there were 2 bathrooms for men, and there were 2 bathrooms for women. And that became reality.
When I was a kid, my grandmother grew up in Virginia. And she was incredibly prejudiced. It's like, we were in the car, my mother was driving this Buick, we were in the car, I was in the back seat, and my grandmother just yelled right out the window. She just yelled. There was a lady, a black lady, pushing a stroller across the seat. She says, 10 points, you hit the nigger lady, and 5 more if you hit the baby too.
Your grandma?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You're like,
It's
wow.
like, she was incredibly prejudiced. And it wasn't only against black people, anybody, midgets,
Right. Irish,
anything.
whatever.
Oh, whatever. Oh, she was Irish, actually. You know, and the funny thing is, it's like, she's Irish. She was
Somebody
Irish.
else could be
It's
prejudiced
like-
against her.
Yeah, right. It was like, it wasn't too long ago when people were prejudiced against the Irish. Okay, when they were coming over on the boats and stuff like that, they used to change your name automatically. It's like all sorts. It's like it's all there,
Oh my
and
God.
it is. It's incredibly sad.
My grandfather was a very nice person, spoke respectfully, but still used the nigger word every time. He's like, yeah, nigger lady was the nicest nigger lady I've ever met. I'm like going, okay, can we just not use that word, please? Because you're embarrassing me as your granddaughter. Because we're in the middle of a restaurant where it's 70% black people, and he's throwing that word around. You're like, okay. But he was loving. He was being nice to him, but he's still using the
grandmother was
word.
not lovely. She was
Exactly.
not
That's
nice.
my point.
You know, the interesting thing was, I look at her life. She died of Alzheimer's. Literally, she lost all of her memories. Now, what does that say? If you look at it in an allegorical sense, there is a consciousness that was so consumed by their definition of themselves that they created so much conflict within themselves that they couldn't even stand their own memory associations. Okay?
Or they
And
just
lost them.
forgave it and forgot it.
That's
No,
what I was.
I won't go there.
Or did she
That's
just
a nice
really-
thought.
really
That is not.
No, because then people think Alzheimer's is the way out.
But seriously, I mean, if you look at it, what is Alzheimer's? Let's take the allegorical idea of what is Alzheimer's. All Alzheimer's finally is you create so much conflict within your own mind that you cannot associate, you cannot take it anymore. So you have so much guilt, and you assume that guilt so much that you literally push everything out of your mind. And you can't push just one thing out of your mind because everything is so connected. Okay? We look at the body, okay? The body, what? It gets old. You know, everyone here is dying of AIDS.
Mhm.
Everyone. Everyone has an acquired immune deficiency system going on. It's called old age. But what is old age? Old age is literally the assumption of all of your memory associations and the literal breaking down of your ability to what?
Remember yourself.
Keep them. Yeah, keep on remembering yourself. You just get tired of it because there's so much conflict involved. And you're caught in the conflict. Yeah, somebody who's lived to be 100 years, 108 years, or whatever it is, their life was very simple and very peaceful. Okay? Us, we do it with drugs. Okay? Well, what are we doing? We're creating conflict along the way. We got Social Security problems, Medicare problems, medical insurance problems. We got all these problems. And what do? It's like, how many people are actually not afraid to grow old? You're not afraid to grow old? I'm afraid to grow old.
I think it's going to be an interesting experience.
For some, it'll be an interesting experience. But if you think about it, we are afraid. Each one of us is living in fear in some way. Either it's fear of justice, or it's fear of condemnation, or it's fear of not getting to God.
It's ultimately a fear of loss, or perceived loss. Because you're either
Well-
losing pride, losing faith, losing body parts, losing activity, losing independence.
It's fear.
Yeah, it's fear.
Okay, it's fear, period. And literally that fear presents us from what? Our eternal birthright. That fear allows us to create an ego, an entire system of thought that is self-reinforcing and that we use to identify ourselves in all of our relationships. Okay? And keeps us from recognizing who we are in truth. Keeps us from recognizing what we are going to experience now as we go into a nice, beautiful, light-filled meditation.
I know, I was thinking the same thing.
It's good.
Feel their brains kind of in rest.